Just imagine, you own the only pharmacy in a small Ohio town. 19 years, 2,400 patients who call you by your first name. You did not cut a single corner. And a corporation you have never met has already scheduled your removal. You are standing behind the counter at 6:45 in the morning. The fluorescent lights hum above the drop ceiling. The smell of antiseptic and old carpet hits the same way it did the first week you signed the lease, 19 years ago. The coffee maker in the back office clicks on. Nobody else is here yet. The phone rings. It is Mrs. Patterson, 83 years old, calling about her metformin refill. You already know her dosage. You already know her insurance. You pull her file without looking it up. This is not a transaction. This is Tuesday. You gross $840,000 a year. Your pharmacy fills 180 prescriptions per day. Your Google reviews average 4.9 stars. The town council gave you a plaque last year. Everything on the surface looks like a small business that works. The number you are about to discover says your take-home after every cost, every fee, every clawback is $16,800. That is less than your technician earns. The pharmacy was full. The pharmacist was broke. Year 17. A man walked into your pharmacy on a Wednesday afternoon. Navy vest, polished shoes, corporate lanyard. He carried a clipboard and a laptop bag. He smiled. He said he was from Express Scripts, conducting a routine pharmacy network audit. He asked to see your dispensing records, your adherence reports, your inventory logs. You cooperated. You had nothing to hide. Your records were clean. Your compliance was flawless. Your patients refilled on schedule. He spent 4 hours in your back office. He thanked you. He left. You went back to filling prescriptions. You did not read the 2-page summary he emailed you that evening. It sat in your inbox for 11 weeks. That summary contained one sentence that would have changed everything. It read, "Performance-based reimbursement adjustments for the upcoming contract year will reflect updated adherence benchmarks." In plain language, that sentence meant they were about to take your money back. Not next year, retroactively, for prescriptions you had already filled, for patients who had already swallowed the pills. Your accountant would have caught it. She had flagged your PBM reimbursement variance 6 months earlier. She had written one line in her quarterly report, "Reimbursement per claim trending 11% below acquisition cost on generic tier." You skimmed that report standing up at the counter between customers. You did not sit down with it. The warning did not hide. You were too busy filling prescriptions to read it. Here is what the auditor already knew. The 3 largest pharmacy benefit managers in the United States, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx, process 80% of every prescription claim in the country. They decide what your pharmacy gets paid. They decide when you get paid. And they decide, months after you already dispense the drug, how much of that payment they will take back. This is the part that makes the entire model collapse. You dispense a generic blood pressure medication. The wholesaler charges you $6.40. The PBM reimburses you $5.90. You lose 50 cents on that single prescription. But you cannot refuse to fill it, because if you drop the network contract, you lose access to 80% of your patients overnight. Now multiply that across 180 prescriptions a day. Some pay above cost, some pay below. On average, your gross margin on dispensing lands at 21%. That sounds survivable, but gross margin is not what you take home. Let me show you what the actual ledger looks like in a single month. Your bank statement for a single month in year 19. That is how a full waiting room becomes an empty bank account. $1,200. Before taxes. For a doctor of pharmacy who works 55 hours a week, manages inventory worth $200,000, and carries the malpractice liability for every prescription that leaves his counter. But the $1,200 is not the real number. That is the number before the retroactive adjustment arrives. PBMs invented something called direct and indirect remuneration fees. Between 2010 and 2020, these fees increased by 107,400%. That is not a typo. The Congressional Research Service confirmed the number. Here is how it works. The notification that arrived 6 months after you filled the prescription, you filled the prescriptions in January. The patient took the medication. The PBM paid you. 6 months later, the PBM decided your patients did not refill frequently enough. So they clawed $14,400 back out of your account. The patients who did not refill were not non-compliant because of you. They could not afford the copays. They did not have a car to pick up the refill. They were choosing between insulin and groceries. And the PBM penalized you for that. The fee did not arrive when you dispensed the drug. It arrived after the money was already spent. Then the contract renewal letter came. Month 1 of year 19, the new PBM contract arrived in your email at 4:17 on a Friday afternoon. 42 pages. The reimbursement formula had changed. The adherence benchmarks had tightened. The clawback window had expanded from 6 months to 12. You signed it because the alternative was losing your entire patient panel overnight. There was no negotiation. There never is. Month 3. Your primary wholesaler raised the acquisition cost on 14 of your top 20 generic medications. The PBM reimbursement did not adjust. You ran the numbers on a Tuesday night after the store closed. 41 of your most frequently dispensed generics now reimburse below your cost to buy them. You filled them anyway. You had to. Month 5, you started rationing your wholesale orders. Instead of ordering a 30-day buffer on fast-moving generics, you ordered a 14-day supply. You told yourself it was cash flow management. Your lead technician noticed the gaps on the shelf. She did not say anything. She updated her resume that weekend. She had been with you 11 years. She never gave a reason. She said she found something closer to home. You both knew what closer to home meant. It meant somewhere that could still afford to pay her. Your pharmacy is not an outlier. Across the country, independent pharmacies have been closing at a rate of roughly 1 per day. Between 2018 and 2024, approximately 6,800 independent pharmacies shut down permanently. Here is what the survival curve actually looks like for an independent pharmacy operating under current PBM contracts. What the next 5 years look like for independent pharmacies like yours. Month 7, your wholesaler placed your account on credit hold. You owed $18,200. You had $2,800 in checking. The PBM clawback from January through March had just posted. $14,400 gone. You called the wholesaler and negotiated a 7-day extension. You paid for that extension with your personal savings account, the one your wife thought was for your daughter's college. Your wife asked one question that night at the kitchen table. She did not ask about the business. She asked, "Are we going to be okay?" You said yes. You did not know if that was true. Month 9. You stopped hiring a replacement for your lead technician. You worked the counter alone on Saturdays. You started coming in at 6:15 and leaving at 7:30. Your lunch was a granola bar eaten standing up between prescription verifications. You had not taken a day off in 11 weeks. Month 10. A patient asked for a GLP-1 weight loss prescription. The wholesale cost for a single month of brand-name semaglutide was over $900. The PBM reimbursement was $912. After your dispensing fee, credit card processing, and inventory carrying cost, you made -$4 on a $900 drug. But refusing to stock it meant patients would transfer to the CVS 30 miles away, and the PBM owned that CVS. The business did not fail because customers stopped coming. It failed because every customer who came cost money to serve. Month 11. Mrs. Patterson came in for her refill. She asked if you were feeling all right. You told her you were fine, just a long week. She said you looked tired. She paid her $3 copay and walked out. Her prescription cost you $6.40 to acquire. The PBM reimbursed $5.90. You lost 50 cents, but she has been your patient for 19 years. You cannot look her in the eye and tell her the system made it unprofitable to hand her the medication that keeps her alive. Month 12. You opened your banking app in the parking lot before driving home. The balance was $411. Payroll was due Friday. You sat in the car for 9 minutes before starting the engine. Here is the gap between what you expected when you opened this pharmacy 19 years ago and what the numbers actually say today. Every line on this table is a promise the system made and then quietly erased. Every number you were promised next to the number you actually received. $5.87 an hour. That is your effective rate when you divide your annual take-home by the hours you actually work. The minimum wage in Ohio is $10.45. You earn less than the teenager bagging groceries at the Kroger down the road. and you carry $200,000 in inventory liability every single day. There are two versions of what happens next. One requires the entire system to change. The other requires you to accept what the system has already decided. Two paths from this counter and the conditions each one demands. The pharmacists who survive the next 3 years will not survive by filling more prescriptions. They will survive by refusing to depend on the dispensing model entirely. They bill for clinical consultations. They partner with local health centers under the 340B program. They stop treating the prescription counter as the business and start treating it as a loss leader for clinical revenue. They run a healthcare practice disguised as a retail store. The pharmacists who do not survive share 3 patterns. They believed the next contract would be fairer. They waited for Congress to fix a problem that Congress scheduled for 2028. And they measured success by prescription volume instead of cash flow per claim. The PBM lobby says independent pharmacies are growing. They released data in February 2026 showing a net increase of 67 independent pharmacies nationwide. What they did not say is that the number includes private equity-backed specialty pharmacies and closed-door long-term care facilities. The traditional community pharmacy, the one with the bell on the door and the owner who knows your name, is disappearing at a rate of 1 per day. 600 closed in the first 9 months of 2025 alone. When that pharmacy closes, the nearest alternative is 30 miles away. For Mrs. Patterson, 83 years old, no car, fixed income, 30 miles might as well be 300. The system did not design her out of healthcare on purpose. It just designed a reimbursement model that made serving her unprofitable. The result is the same. You did not lose this pharmacy because you managed it poorly. You did not lose it because demand disappeared. You did not lose it because a competitor offered something better. You lost it because an intermediary you never met decided that the fee for processing your claim was worth more than the margin you needed to stay open. The contract did not steal your business. It owned the terms from the beginning. You just did not know the terms could change after the prescription was already filled. You did not fail. The model was not designed for you to succeed. Tomorrow morning, the fluorescent lights will turn on at 6:45. The coffee maker will click. The phone will ring. Mrs. Patterson will need her refill. The question is whether you will still be there to answer it, and if you are not, whether anyone else will be.